What's up, you guys? It's Julian. Today, I'm super excited to be showing you how to do hard house drums, sort of like Kettama Tommy Holohan style. You can get this template that I'm using in the video. It's one of the templates from a Hard House Revolution sample pack. It's a new one. The link's out at the top of the description. Make sure to grab that. Thanks for the support, and let's dive in. Alright, so we're at 145 BPM. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is these are drums, but you hear a bass. I think this is really important. You know, I struggled for years with mixing drums and with getting like good drums, and a lot of that can come from not really realizing like how this all relates together too. I think because like I feel like I was focusing too much on drums and not enough on the bass as well. And the reason I'm saying that is listen to this without the bass. Like, it's probably not quite what you would imagine, but once you actually go and like check this against other tracks and mix it for a while and test it, you're gonna find this is pretty much what that mix is supposed to sound like. And I think if you try to do that without a bass, you're gonna probably mix this quite different. That was my experience, is like I would try to make drum loops like this, not worrying about the bass line at all, and then I would kind of get stuck, and then later the bass would kind of mess it up. It really needs to all be like one thing. Really, when you start, I like to just start with a kick and a bass. Like for me, this is a lot of the drum section right here. Right, now with our kicks, usually it's not a lot of processing, it's really just getting it and then getting like a really fat one. You can literally see the waveform here, it's huge. Right, and then I just pitch that down a little bit. And then a lot of times I'll cut the sub. People all over the internet will tell you do this, and then other people on the internet will tell you not do this, and then you'll look into like a pro's project file and they're doing this, and like, yeah, it's one of those things that's very heavily debated. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys might already have a feeling about that, but I think it's very important because what it does is it tends to sort of like lift the kick up. Like if I turn this off, on. You see how the bass now sits, like all that super sub is being taken up by the bass, and you're not hearing any clash or any fight there. It's just really nice. Plus, for whatever reason, like just with the science of sound, this tends to just kind of make this kick. Like you hear it on speakers or even on headphones, like. I guess because it's just not getting weighed down by so much sub. But yeah, pretty important. And then after that, you want to convert it to mono, because typically this can mess with the phase stuff. The bass line is really simple, but again, you notice it is like a percussion. You know, dong, 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 dong. That's a percussion loop, essentially, right? And then also just how simple the melody is. Like, it's literally just 1, 3, 4, you know? As far as bass lines go, usually it's pretty simple as well, honestly. It's just a short, sort of like, you know, more punchy sound like this. I've got it sidechained to the kick, and there's even a little subcut on that, too. And then from there, I always like to move to, like, the main drums. So it's like, you get these two, right? And then you get the hi-hat and the clap. Right, and this is another one of those things that can kind of seem different. One thing I've noticed is you usually want a pretty short hi-hat. You can see this is a 909 that I've literally just dragged the end back and just made this little ch. And then you can either have a long or a short clap. I find these long ones really sit nicely over the beat. And another thing you can do, in this case, it just kind of fit better to be like this. Right? But one thing that you can do, if you want to make this clap even crazier, is you can play around with this. You get like a short reverb, right? Like the size and decay down. And then you essentially distort it after that. And then you're just going to play around with like different distortion settings. Right, and you can make kind of like one of those that you hear in a lot of techno as well. But in this particular mix, it just kind of worked well to just let the sample shine. You see, we're really not over-processing these main sounds. It's really just going to be simple and clean. The processing is more on things that you want to kind of add flavor to the mix, like this. So this is something that's very overlooked when it comes to these kind of tracks, is just having like a little percussive stab like that, maybe once every bar, or in this case it's once every half a bar, so like a half note kind of repeating. And what it does is you have all these kind of really steady rhythms going, and then you just have this one thing that just dunk, dunk. Right, and it's adding so much energy to the track. If I take that out, this feels like the main drop now when you add that, right? And it's really simple. This is just one I found inside of this Taxi kit in Ableton. Plus, you always want to have a little bit of... Right, you can see this little hi-hat, and the swing is important. Even though like people don't really talk about swing and hard house, it actually is important. If you take this, it's not gonna have as much soul if everything's really, you know, straight like that. This being swung a little, you know, it makes it a lot more bouncy for this style. And then we have our infamous rave loops. I think they're very important. In this case, we got 5 of them. Right, so say what you will about this. This is exactly what you're thinking in your head. You're making a very basic sort of drum loop, right? Like, it's really not that crazy. And then instead of going and doing a bunch of drum rack percussion or a bunch of, like, you know, little individual sounds, it's essentially stacking these loops up. This is how hard house is made. You know, I did not create this genre. If I created the genre, maybe a lot of things would be made more from scratch. But in this case, this is the sound. What you guys are hearing in these tracks that you want to recreate, this is it. They're taking these loops, and what they're doing is they're stacking them. So, like, this is why, like, if you just take one of these and just, even if you turn it up louder, you know, it's not quite that same thing. Something happens when you stack these up, when you just start putting a lot of them. Like, it just creates this sort of like behemoth that you can really, and this like mid-range and high-end where they are all kind of stacking up, and maybe they're sort of clashing or maybe they're whatever, but it just creates that juicy sort of hard house thing. And there's really no way around it because these loops have so much animation and like live percussion inside of them. These are all some that I've made either in my Ultimate Hard House Rave Loops pack or in, I think it was the Hard Techno Drum Library, also the Ultimate Hard Techno Drum Library. These, you know, it's just essentially I built these and then you can stack them up. So if you really want to go from scratch, I guess try making these, you know, yourself and then build a track around them. But there's no way around it that these tracks, if you guys want to sound like the pros, this is what the pros are doing. They're stacking up these rave loops and just kind of building their own monster out of it. The secret to these also, again, is not a lot of processing, but on a lot of them, not all of them, like sometimes it sounds good without it, like these two, but a lot of times what you're going to be doing is high passing. Right, you really want this to be more like mids and highs. And then in this case, I'm using auto pan, but you could sidechain to your kick, or you could use any kind of like shaper box or LFO tool or anything like that. Essentially just making it kind of sound sidechain to the kick. But it's a lot tighter and more controllable with the auto pan. Those are really the two things you're going to put on most of these. And then it's just, you just have to listen for the settings. Like the real main setting you're going to play with is just the amount on the auto pan and just the frequency on the filter. Different loops call for different things. And then like this one, yeah, this one is like just high end, right? So it's basically that. But that is the sound of these drums that you guys are hearing in these tracks. There's no way around it. I could sit here and I could program in 20 drum racks and show you all these crazy things, but this is what the pros are doing. I want to show you how to make tracks the way the pros are doing it, and this is how they're doing it. So that's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. Let me know what you think of this video in the comments as well if you want to see more Hard House. Like I said, you can get this drum template and a lot more in Hard House Revolution, my new sample pack. Links at the top of the description. Thanks for the support, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.